So you can see this massive aquarium. I thought it was kind of interesting. I haven't got a brilliant shot of this yet, but I'm kind of happy with it. I was happily taking street photos. And then I took this picture, which I don't even like, but something happened. And the thing that happened was I got this effect in the window. It's like a double exposure. Normally I go up much closer to the window and so I can see through properly and don't get any reflections. But when this happened, it gave me an idea. And it wasn't so much the reflection of the bus in the background, it was that light, that blue light that you see. Because that, whilst it looks like water, it's actually just a reflection of the sky. And then I thought to myself, I can do this. I can get close. Not close enough to be able to see tons of what's behind me, but close enough that I can start to get maybe something in the reflection, but I can get light coming in and start getting something that looks a bit like light leaks. Not trying to imitate that, I'm just saying it has that effect. Now look at this window when I'm walking up to it. You can see that church in the background and I'm paying attention to it now. It's not something that I generally pay much attention to, but I'm seeing it and I'm thinking that could look quite nice. So instead of going closer to the window, I'm just holding back a bit and now I'm getting this sort of double exposure effect in camera and I'm quite liking it. I think I want to play with this a little bit. I'm more interested though to maybe not have it as reflections of other buildings, but maybe have light leaks. So as I'm walking along, I start to think to myself, what if I get a bit closer? Because the closer you get, the more you see into the building and the less of a reflection you have. Now I'm looking back into this building again and thinking, well, this is looking pretty good. And so now I'm further back. So you can see that as I'm stood further back, you're now getting a full reflection in the upper part of the picture of the buildings that are behind. And I thought that this worked when I was looking at it, because obviously you can see it in real life, not just in the camera. I thought that the positioning of that double exposure effect looked quite good, but I really liked the ground floor of this building. Doesn't it look kind of incredible? And so here, the staircase is what's attracting me, and I'm thinking about how to line this up. But what I really love is all of these off-angle bits in the ceiling. That there's this upper level and then the ceiling parts, and then all of these angles that come together. A lot of it is just non-functional design. It's designed to look nice and not be particularly functional. But I kind of like that. It's like, why not do something interesting and do something different? I think they've done well. Now on the Olympus Ep3, I'm using the 17mm. I'm shooting at f1.8 and in manual mode, 80th of a second. And the ISO is an auto. So it's underexposing 0.7. 0.7 stops underexposed. So here, this was another thing. It's about geometry, it's about lighting, it's about colors. And I'm photographing things that interest me. I quite like this picture. I wasn't too sure about it at first, but I think the angles of it, this sort of the triangular part of the floor and then the sort of squared off rest of the picture, I kind of like it, and it just seems to be odd angles again, but you've got these unusual lights coming through. So I like stuff like this. This is one of my favourite little locations down here with these lights on the wall. And I saw the seating area, again, one of those shots where I'm drawn to the lighting, I'm drawn to the way the light's bouncing off the tables and chairs, and I just needed to grab this as a shot. If I'm drawn to something, I'll photograph it, and I'll figure out why I liked it later sometimes, but other times it's obvious. I knew why I liked this one straight away. But that underexposure I'm doing is helping to give this look because I'm trying to not blow out the lights. In this instance, I preferred the landscape orientation picture. I think that seeing the top of the umbrella here didn't really add anything to the picture, and there's too much useless information above it, so I didn't think that was quite as good. But this area, I'm waiting to do something better. I have actually got a good shot in this area which will be in another video, but I'm kind of waiting for something better in this location. I'm not quite sure what it is, but I do think something will come along at some point, so I want to keep sort of investigating it. But this guy that just walked past, I thought, let's just grab a picture of him walking away so he won't be recognisable in the picture or anything like that. And I just grabbed it. It's okay, not a keeper for me. I like people in my pictures to be quite far away like this. I don't like to have them as dominant features, generally speaking. Not really sure why, but I think I'm more interested in people not being in the picture and just showing the environment. But if I do have people, they're minor features of the picture. So this is the Gherkin area, that building on the left there is called the Gherkin. I'm actually starting to look and think it's quite a hard building to photograph. And I thought, let's just not try too much to photograph that. Let's just look at what's around. So what's attracting me initially is that light in that corridor, but then my attention switches over quite quickly to that reflective building at the end. And what I'm looking at as I'm walking down here is I'm thinking to myself, is there going to be anything in that worth photographing? And I'm just, as I'm walking, looking as pictures appear and thinking about it, and not sure. And I think in hindsight, I might have taken this picture, but I would really like to have a longer lens. I think what I need for the street photography that I'm doing is a 24-70 or equivalent, just because I'm seeing certain compositions that I'm not really happy with getting at the focal lengths I'm choosing. So I think a zoom lens, a mid-range zoom, would probably, for my style, be better. Sometimes I want to be wider and sometimes I don't. So I think here that I'm thinking that I really like this building that I spotted when I looked up. And the reason that I'm doing this one-handed and resting it on the wall is because I'm holding the GoPro, which is filming this, in my other hand. So normally I would just hold both hands on the camera and photograph this. But so you'll see me doing it one-handed, leaning on the wall, but it's because I'm filming for YouTube for you guys. I like this picture. I'm not really sure why I like it. I think it's the shapes again, but it's got very slight sort of Batman-y vibe to it or something because of the mad styles of the buildings. I really like this in London. I'm very keen on the modern architecture here. I think it's just, they're not afraid to experiment and try things. It's not necessarily the most daring, although some of it's like this gherkin thing on the left is pretty mad. But there's a lot of stuff around it that maybe not quite as bold as the gherkin, but there's a lot of stuff that's kind of interesting and different designs as well that are really worth checking out. And it's, if you start looking and start seeing what's around you, there's often more than you think, especially in some of these big cities. And I kind of like this stuff. So I'm trying now to get an angle that's going to be showing off these buildings, I guess, to their best effect. And I'm trying to include a little bit of the gherkin just to give a reference as to what it is, because I think a lot of people will recognise even just a small piece of the gherkin because it's so distinctive. But some of these other buildings, I think, are interesting in their own right, and so that's why I kind of want to show them. So I'll just pop these pictures up on the screen in a minute. But there's an aeroplane flying through here, and I'm trying to time it so I can get it in the gap between the buildings. I don't know whether I really like that kind of stuff, but these are the series of pictures that I just shot. Okay, and now I'm back at the base of the gherkin area here. It was just a moment where there was no one there, and I thought, take the picture, because I like all the uplighting and crazy design at the bottom as well. You don't have to show, even if a building has an unusual shape, there's sometimes these areas like this at the bottom where the architecture itself is quite unusual and worth photographing as a more of a close-up like this. And I have shot a few pictures around in this section before, but you know, I thought it was pretty decent. Now in this building, I've shot other angles in here, but again, I like this kind of mysterious vibe that it's got. It's almost like a film noir kind of thing. I know this colour, but you know what I mean in terms of the lighting. It's got all these little hard lights, but the combination of them gives soft patches of light as well, which I think is kind of interesting. So the reason it looks different in my picture is because I'm underexposing it more. But this is, for me, this corridor, there's something about this. I don't know what it is. It's just that left, it looks like something's happening behind there, like some sort of nuclear reaction or something. I think kind of looks mad as a corridor, like something from The Shining. It's just such an unusual thing. And look at the designs of these buildings as well. They're really quite incredible when you look at them. There's so much stuff that you can photograph as well. And I like the way this curved on the left-hand side kind of nicely. Not really a keeper for me, but I kind of enjoyed the picture. I liked it well enough. This lighting, no one under there. I thought, you know what, I've got to get this picture and just try and line it up in some sort of way that's going to be at least interesting. Again, it's exposing for those lights, and I don't know if it's a great composition or not, but I feel like it's one of those pictures for me that's satisfying to take. Yeah, I think it's like a satisfying picture to take, and I still kind of like it for that. So as we moved over more towards Lloyd's building, I'm starting to think about what can I see different angles. I'm looking at some of the reflections of the buildings in the windows and so on, just seeing different bits and pieces. So as we cross the road here, there's this large sculpture in the middle, and I wanted to get a picture of that in the middle of the photo. And the way I edited this was I did a version that was very warm toned, and then I did another version that was very cool toned, and the only change that I made was moving the white balance slider. But I'd really like to know from you guys in the comments, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the warm version or do you prefer the cooler version? I kind of undecided because I quite like both of them in different ways. I think maybe the cooler version could do with a bit of emphasizing of the sculpture, but it's a different look, but it's the same preset, it's just my dark lights preset. And I just moved the temperature slider over because I wanted to see what a cooler look would give. And it started me thinking about maybe doing some cooler toned nighttime pictures like this as well. Just exploring at this point, looking around and thinking, and then seeing those lights lighting up on the left there in a row, just grabbing the shot because the lights attracted me, and then the V shape of that escalator. I thought, yeah, I've got to have that picture, and I quite like it. This is quite good. I like the numbers reflecting in the window. I don't even know where they're coming from. You see there's like a number 3 and a number 10 and a couple of other numbers. I don't even know where that's coming from, but it's kind of interesting that it's there at all. Anyway, check out my website here. You find out more information about me and some of the things that I offer. If you want to buy me coffee, the link is in the description down below. It's much appreciated. It really helps this channel out, helps me make more of these videos for you. I'd be interested in your comments, especially on those warm and cooler tones. I'd be really interested for some feedback on that. Subscribe if you're new and give me a thumbs up if you did like the video, and I'll see you again in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.